Calaroga Shark Media.
Good one today. Hi, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. 4 or 5 stories, any one of which could have been the lead today. Let's start with John Mulaney. GQ did a major profile of John. It is fantastic. I have shared it in the Facebook group, which is Daily Comedy News Podcast Group. You might want to drop your browser into reader mode. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, say no more. Several sections of the article discuss Mulaney's appearance, his suit wearing, and what goes into that. One thing that spoke to me was they kept bringing back Mulaney's appearance, how he turned to suits, etc. And I like this section. They write, take away the suit, the haircut, and all the other affects of a former altar boy, and perhaps more people would have noticed that Mulaney's act was as drug-soaked as a 1970s Stone record. The very first track of his first comedy album was titled Blacking Out and Making Money. Surely there was kind of a willful blindness at work. Mulaney says, I very much tried to tell everyone. GQ writes, but wasn't he also trying to hide his darker tendencies? Didn't he make a habit of telling us exactly how harmless he was? Just in case our first impressions weren't convincing enough from the Comeback Kid album, I'm so open and vulnerable. I look like a doll that you point out molestation on the New in Town album. I look like I was just sitting in a room in a chair eating saltines for like 28 years. Mulaney says, what I said is, I look harmless. Jim Gaffigan was at Stand Up for Heroes on Monday night. The Hollywood Reporter asked him about his time on Saturday Night Live, which I don't know if you know, is turning 50. We're going to talk about it every day. Gaffigan said, it wasn't the expectation that Maya and I were going to continue on the entire time. He said he had to cancel some tour dates to make the weekly appearances work. He had also mentioned that on the David Spade podcast. Talk about it in a second. It was such a cool thing, so I don't necessarily feel bad. I feel more gratitude that I had the opportunity to, swim in that pool with all those talented people. You can't consider modern American comedy and not include SNL in the discourse, and it's such a unique show the way it's produced, so there's something really fun but also awe-inspiring about it. As I mentioned, Gaffigan is on the David Spade, Dana Carvey podcast. If you find that episode, seriously, he's not on till 45 minutes in. I know that show is super popular, and boy, they're making some money based on the amount of commercials I heard, but I don't know, that show's a little misproduced. They get awesome guests because of who the hosts are, but in terms of what they hand in every week, it's misproduced. When you finally get to the Gaffigan part, Gaffigan said, Dana, were you secretly hoping, like I was, hopefully Tim Walz would do something to get some news? I don't want him to humiliate himself. He'll, be in some sketches, but they're competing for attention. And I think at a different time, him even playing Fortnite with AOC, that would be newsworthy, but we live in such chaotic times. Chloe Fineman making some news. She dropped a TikTok on Monday where she identified Elon Musk as the man who made her cry when Elon hosted SNL back in 2021. The Hollywood Reporter saw the TikTok before Fineman deleted it. According to the reports, Fineman said, you know what? I'm going to come out and say at long last that I'm the cast member that he made cry, and he's the host that made someone cry. If you're going to go on your platform and be rude, guess what? You made I, Chloe Fineman, burst into tears because I stayed up late writing a sketch. I was so excited. I came in. I asked you if you had any questions, and you stared at me like you were firing me from Tesla and were like, it's not funny. According to Fineman, Musk went through her script line by line and told her he didn't laugh once. The sketch in question was the Icelandic talk show parody The Uli Show that did actually air. Fineman said, I actually had a really good time, and I thought you were really funny in it, but have a little manners here, sir. I suspect that might bubble up a little more in the next day or so. Another thing that could have been a big story, Tony Hinchcliffe, clips now circulating of his Kill Tony set. This is a little lengthy, but I will let it play as we've all wanted to hear what Tony Hinchcliffe thought about his very controversial set. If you don't want to hear Tony, hit skip, 5 times, because this is probably a minute and a half, 2 minutes here, but I'll let it run. I have clipped out 2 F-bombs. Other than that, here are the words of Tony Hinchcliffe.
Ladies and gentlemen, last night I gave a speech. I don't know if you've heard about this. It was a speech about free speech, believe it or not. And I'm currently under attack. I'm the news. I don't know if you guys know this, but on my speech on free speech, I referenced Puerto Rico, which currently has a landfill problem in which all of their landfills are filled to the brim. I guess I'm the only person that knew about this, unfortunately. And with that said, I just want to say that I love Puerto Ricans. They're very smart people. They're smart. They're street smart. and they're smart enough to know when they're being used as political fodder. And right now, that is happening. And I apologize to absolutely nobody. Not to the Puerto Ricans, not to the whites, not to the blacks, not to the Palestinians, not to the Jews, and not to my own mother, who I made fun of during the set. Nobody clipped that. No headlines about me making fun of my own mother. Perhaps that venue at that time wasn't the best place to do this set at. But in any matter, to the mainstream media and to everybody trying to slander me online, that's what I do. I go hard, and that's never going to change.
Adrian Appaloochee quietly dropped a Netflix special yesterday. Directed by Louis C.K., he's not canceled, and produced by Ari Shaffir, The Dark Queen is on Netflix. Appaloochee takes aim at our public figures, awkward tribute tattoos, virtual signaling, and more. Joe Mande, fresh off winning an Emmy for writing on Hacks, is getting his own comedy special on Hulu. This is separate from the Hilarious thing. I haven't dug deep here, but I know they did a deal with Comedy Dynamics, so I'm guessing it's one of those. So this isn't one of the big 12, 11 of which have been announced. This is extra Hulu comedy. Hulu publicists, get back to me, man. I'm trying. Reached out to a bunch of you on LinkedIn. What did I do wrong? I'm nice. Joe Mande's special is called Chili. It'll be out December 13th on Hulu. Joe has another special called Joe Mande's award-winning comedy special that was on Netflix in 2017. Rob Schneider is apparently frustrated by Arizona's election results timeline. Rob Schneider tweeted on November 4th, "Dear Assistant County Manager Zach Shira, as a resident of the great state of Arizona and more importantly, a United States citizen," now we go in caps here, "waiting days for the results of the election in Maricopa County is unacceptable." He then switched back and forth between regular capitalization and caps. I will emphasize the caps parts with my voice. "We are not some banana republic. We are the United States of America. I will do everything in my power to have election officials this next election cycle that can count all ballots by the end of the same day of voting." And here's the news item. "Even if I have to run and become governor myself, oh, please run for governor of Arizona. I have a podcast to do every day. I have 2 podcasts to do every day. The other one being the Ballot Podcast. Rob Schneider, please. Yes, you should run. I agree. This is totally unacceptable what's going on in Arizona, and Rob Schneider for governor is the solution." Meanwhile, Andy Samberg told a story about Amy Adams refusing to do a sketch. MacPacker Andy Samberg says, "I'm not going to go into great detail about it, but it was a song that would have been a duet with me and Amy Adams, and it was very dirty. It was basically like we were both really old and we were having a picnic, old people couple, and one of us gets stung by a scorpion, then I'm dying or something, and the one lament on my deathbed is that we didn't explore things more sexually in our life, and it's this huge anthem about that." Samberg continues and says, "Amy was like, 'That's really funny. I can't do that. Little girls are so obsessed with Enchanted right now. They'll find this and it'll be scarring for them. I just can't mix that right now.'" They instead got Amy Adams on Hero Song, which is a digital short about a superhero who beats the hell out of a criminal. Samberg says, "Within 5 minutes, a mother and a little girl walked up, and the look on the little girl's face upon seeing Amy Adams, I was like, oh, she was so right." And it was very instructive for me. It's not something I even thought about in our line of work. You know what I mean? Like, she actually has an obligation and a responsibility to those kids, and she took it really seriously. And I remember being really impressed by that. I know you guys were like, hey, what should we get Johnny Mac for Christmas? Well, Adam Sandler's Love You is now out on CD. Whew. This is the audio version of that most recent special, which, hey, let me be fair, I actually liked. I'm openly not a fan of most Adam Sandler projects, although, you know, lately, last half decade, I've kind of liked 4 out of 5. I'm warming up to The Sandman, although most of his work is garbage. Well discussed on this podcast. Go back. If you're on an app, just type the word Sandler into your search engine, and several episodes will come up, so I won't go there today. Anyway, Adam Sandler, Love You, out on CD. Oh, I don't have a CD player. Let's see what's happening at the New York Comedy Festival. I won't read all the shows. I'll just do the names you know. One of the shows, Still Screaming, celebrating the career and comedy of Gilbert Gottfried. This is at the venue at Hard Rock. It's 7 o'clock. The New York Comedy Festival says, join us for an unforgettable night of love and laughter as we honor the comedic genius of Gilbert Gottfried with the release of his long-awaited vinyl album, Still Screaming. The one-of-a-kind event will feature never-before-seen outtakes from the award-winning documentary Gilbert, followed by an entertaining panel discussion with moderator Frank Santopadre. You know him as the co-host of Gilbert's awesome podcast, guest Dana Gottfried, and filmmaker Neil Berkeley. Also appearing, Dave Attell, Suzy Essman, Judy Gold, Richard Kind, and more. Also a Q&A session. A funny titled show at the Bell House at 7:30. Don't Stop, I'm About to Jazz. Comedians perform their sets with live piano accompaniment, and a bunch of other shows with people who aren't as famous as Gilbert Gottfried. I'm looking ahead to tomorrow. It starts to get a little more famous starting tomorrow. As I continue to say, love the festival, great job. New York City's too big, it just doesn't resonate. I prep this show every day, and I'm typing New York Comedy Festival into Google, and nothing comes up. The city's too big. Suzy Iazzard spoke to The Statesman about her current tour, the Remix Tour. She's taking some of her most popular routines and remixing them by finding new angles. Iazzard says, I do try to entertain myself, so I keep it fresh and bubbly and moving things around. I hope audience members can go away with the idea that their mind was rested from everyday troubles, and maybe they've learned a bit of history, a bit of this, a bit of that, and a bit of weird stuff about Henry VIII. And that's your comedy news for today. Don't forget, I also host 5 good news stories on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Check that one out. If you'd like this program commercial-free, if you're on Apple Podcasts, click the banner. Avail yourself of the 30-day free trial. Why wouldn't you? If you're not on Apple Podcasts, check the show notes. We'll tell you how to get the show on other platforms. Meet you here tomorrow.